This will be a 180 lit. Ready? Begin. Mr. President, I wanted to take just a moment following the speech by the majority leader to say that he begins this session of Congress with a very heavy weight on his shoulders. He is a leader in a Congress that is facing a very unique challenge. I consider the majority leader a friend. I know that these are not easy times for him, and I hope that as we proceed with the important matter of impeachment, that all of us in this chamber can work together with Senator Lott and the Democratic leader, Senator Daschle, to see that we do the job that we are required to do by the law in a thoughtful, deliberative, and bipartisan way. I know there are some outside these chambers who are worried about the Senate moving too quickly with the impeachment trial. Those who have had an opportunity to read 2 centuries of history of the U.S. Senate know that one of the last worries that one ought to entertain is that the Senate will ever move too quickly or follow too closely. The U.S. Senate is a very deliberative body. The problem has seldom ever, in the history of this country, been that the Senate moves too fast. Rather, my concern is that we discharge our oaths to do our duty and do it in a way that will give the American people confidence that the Senate showed the dignity they would want from this body. The senator from Mississippi, the majority leader, said that there are many other things that challenge us and that will require our attention. He is surely correct about that. I too hope that we can join together to deal with these issues in a more fair spirit in this Congress than we have seen in recent Congresses. I want to mention just a couple of those challenges. The senator from Mississippi said that the way the last session ended was not a good way to end. He is right about that. It was shameful that so much business was left on the table at the end to be considered and dealt with by a few people, many of them unelected, behind closed doors and then brought to the floor by unanimous consent. That is not a way to do the Senate's business. It is not a way to perform the business of Congress. All of us know that. All of us understand that. And we ought to see if we can determine a way to change the rules to prevent that from happening in the future. With respect to challenges that we face, the first is challenges abroad. All of us understand the problem that is posed to us and the whole world in what is mostly a global economy as a result of the economic fall and the hurdles facing the economies of the Asian countries. All you have to do is ask our farmers what they have seen as a result of Asian economies being weak and thus buying less in farm commodities from our country. And you will then see the direct impact, not just in that sector, but in virtually every sector in this country. We have a stake in how well other countries in the world are doing. When the Asian countries have big trouble, recession and collapse, it hurts our country and our future. When the Russian economy falls, it affects us. When the Brazilian economy is in trouble, it affects us. So these things that are being experienced in many areas of the world have the chance to hunt in a big way the American economy. And we must work with our Secretary of Treasury, with the President, and with members of Congress to reach out and see that we try to stop the spreading fiscal problems that exist in other parts of the world. The other challenges are pretty clear as well. When the country of North Korea tests medium-range missiles, when the country of Iran begins testing medium-range missiles, presumably to hoist something aloft and threaten someone down the road, do we need to be concerned about that? You bet. The testing of missiles by North Korea and Iran is a very ominous threat to this country and ought to be of great concern to us. When India and Pakistan decide to hurt their poor relationship by exploding nuclear weapons right under each other's chin, it is that bad for the world. You bet it is. Do we need to be concerned about that? Of course. We have about 7,500 nuclear weapons in our arsenal. I expect that in Russia and other parts of the world, there are 7,500 nuclear weapons. And if the Russian government decides to approve START 2 at some point in the future, we whittle that number of nuclear weapons down to 5,000. That is still far too many. It doesn't make any sense. So we have a challenge to try to respond to that. We must respond to the issue of the proliferation of nuclear weapons. When you look at the real threat to the whole world posed by India and Pakistan, two adversaries detonating these nuclear weapons right in front of each other, and then consider that other countries are trying to acquire weapons of mass destruction as well as the capability of delivering them on the top of a missile. That is a concern. When countries like Iran and North Korea start testing missiles, is that a challenge to this country? You bet it is. And this Congress needs to be concerned about it and work with this president to develop policies to try to prevent the proliferation of nuclear weapons and the technology for delivering those weapons.